Alright, so I'm a little late, but I finally finished Mob Psycho 100. Obviously, spoiler alert for the whole series. But yeah, it's kind of crazy because I wasn't expecting it to end. I didn't really see any of the promotional material. I don't know if they said anything about it there. And a lot of other series I've watched, it's like going in, I saw that the last episode was a while ago, so it's probably not still active. Or if I got super into a series and got really curious as to what was going on with some characters I liked in that, I would go on the wiki and get a general idea of where everything was at. That wasn't the case here, but it was kind of interesting to just sort of watch and sort of realize that they're wrapping things up as it went along. Like I said, one of the first times that that's really happened for me, I guess. But yeah, Mob was one of the very first animes that I finished what was available at the time. One Punch was the other one. Just growing up, I had friends who were into anime, but they never really talked about it too much, or we would rather just play games or something when we were hanging out. But when I went to college, I guess my friends were a little more into it, and they were more interested in having in-depth conversations and watching some while we were hanging out and that, so I guess that was my motivation to finally get into it. Not that it didn't interest me before, but I have to give Mob some credit, though. As a series, like, I feel like the general premise of Reagan's whole thing and waiting for Mob to reach 100, I feel like, well, the Mob thing could lose its touch after the first time it happens, and the Reagan spiel can get kind of old after a while, but where it wasn't my favorite series, I feel like they did a great job of keeping things entertaining enough for the most part, as long as they did. I feel like, too, coming off of the second season and sort of ending the whole Claw thing that they'd been building up, I think the first season was my favorite, then the third, then the second, and I think that does say something, too, considering I feel like sometimes a series could struggle to sort of, once again, come off of something that they've been building up. I did like how they introduced a new character to Reagan's company. I don't remember his name, I'm just going to call him Umbrella Guy. I wish we got a little more of him. Another thing I kind of wish we could have seen was, I looked on the wiki before this and it said that the main antagonist from the first season, once again I don't remember the name, I'm just going to call him Gas Mask Guy, said he's presumably dead, but considering people don't really die a lot in Mob, and it wasn't 100% sure thing, I think it would have been interesting to see him come back in some way, even if it was just a little side thing, oh, he's in jail now or something. Or even something that could have been interesting is I remember there was a little plot line in the second season where there was a little group thinking about starting a little rebellion within Claw, like if he got involved with them, or if these people tried to pick up the pieces of Claw and try to form their own organization or sort of continue Claw in a new era. Those could have been some interesting things. Speaking of death in the series, one thing I don't agree with is how they brought Dimple back. I'm kind of on the side as if you're going to go through and kill someone, just keep them dead. I do like the whole thing, though, of Ma being so powerful that just his sheer want of Dimple being alive brought him back. Albeit, I don't know, is he in a weakened state now, or was that just from the initial resurrection? I don't know. But I think it would have been more interesting if they killed off someone else and use the same plot line, but then have them come back as a spirit like Dimple. Because that way, you still get the whole Mob being that powerful thing out of it, but there's also still some repercussions to what happened before. I mean, even if Dimple's not as powerful now, his whole story arc there at the end, he sort of settled on supporting the main cast and stopped worrying as much about being really powerful and influential in that. So another thing too that I guess for me sort of rubbed a little the wrong way, I mean, I guess at the end, Reagan being able to bring Mob to his senses makes sense. I mean, he is pretty much the second main character, I think, of the series, and then seeing Mob acknowledge in his mind that he knows Reigen's secret, and it does bug him that he's kind of being used, at least a little bit, but I kind of wish Ritsu helped. Like, I feel like one of the main reasons Mob sort of hid away his emotions, I know there was other stuff too, like the Tsubomi thing, but the thing, I guess, for me that stood out was him accidentally hurting Ritsu when they were younger. So I kind of like the idea of things kind of coming full circle there more. Like I said, he still played a role, and you could argue that Mob coming back down to his senses came from just everything that had been building up to Reigen being there, and Reigen was just, I guess, at the right place at the right time, which I guess is fitting for the character to be able to be the straw that broke the back of Mob's turmoil. But still, I just think it would have worked better if they both sort of did it together or something, or maybe he came a little later. Maybe Reigen sort of talked him down, helped him sort of go back and forth a little more, and then Ritsu was able to come in and help put the final touches on him gaining his senses. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I did also really like the aliens they introduced towards the end, just because, like, I feel like when you see aliens, you either have them, looking for all this knowledge, or maybe they're hostile, and then you have these aliens which are they just want to chill and hang out, eat junk food, play video games, read manga, whatever. I just feel like that was a bit of a refreshing twist on the whole alien thing. One thing I do also want to say that I appreciate is I did see now that the manga was over before the anime began. So this was intentional, but for some reason I remember in the first OP that they had Reigen eat broccoli, and it just seems random, whatever. Maybe just some sort of gag, but then seeing that actually play a role in the story later is kind of cool. I also did like seeing the first OP come back there at the end. Once again, things coming full circle, and in my opinion, the first OP is quite a bit better than the other two, so yeah, I guess I also kind of wish that guy that was stuck with the aliens for a little bit, like I said, maybe looking too deep into a little end of episode, end of manga chapter gag, but I kind of wish, especially he didn't really play independently a big role at the end or anything, I kind of wish that he was absent and maybe came back during the whole thing with Mob, or maybe in the little epilogue he finally returned or whatever. That way there's a little more mystery, intrigue, suspense, I don't know.